Thank you, Asia. Thank you, Jason, for your testimony. Asia, we could have a discussion for the next several hours on salmon. As you know, I've been somewhat involved in trying to restore those, and it's not just the 4 tribes that you represent. It's also other tribes in the Pacific Northwest that have done a lot. In fact, without the work that all these tribes have done in trying to save the Pacific salmon and salmon that come into Idaho, which is the spawning ground for most of these fish, for a lot of these fish, they will go extinct. You can, if we don't do something, you can have the best reserve fishing rights in the world. Doesn't mean anything if there's no fish. But this, if it wouldn't have been for the work of the tribes, those fish up there would be extinct now. That's just a reality. And they're going to go extinct if we don't make some hard decisions. That's why I put out a proposal concept of what could be done. But it's dramatic. The people of the Pacific Northwest are going to have to make some decisions. And it's not about what we've got now, but it's what do we want this place to be 50 years from now? Do we still want salmon? I have not seen one person raise their hand and say, just let them go extinct. Everybody wants to save them. So far we've spent $17 billion. Hasn't done a job. They're declining, and they're going to go extinct if we don't do something. So I appreciate all that you do. I know it's tough work. We'll get it done. We'll keep working on it. But thank you both for being here and your testimony. You do important work. Ms. Pingree?
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing up the importance of keeping the salmon from going extinct and restoring them. I'm on the East Coast, but in Maine we've spent a lot of time trying to mostly doing dam removal and other things to bring back our salmon populations. And it is really critical, but it's expensive and complicated.
You had to mention dam removal.
Yeah. No. Which, of course, would never have to happen. But, we've already seen a significant return in the alewives, which were also a very important native species, but are critically important to our fishermen as a bait fish. So we have seen the changes. And while salmon's a little bit slower, and we have issues where our salmon often migrate over to Greenland and other places, and we're never sure we're going to get them back. So we've got other kinds of challenges, and I'm not a fish scientist, but I deeply appreciate the work that you're doing. And you as well, Jason, thank you for putting in that long drive. That really shows a lot about your commitment, but we're grateful for that and really benefit from your presence here and the important things you're talking about. I know how important funding these natural resource entities are to the tribes, but really benefit all of us, particularly with the changing weather and disappearing species. It's really more important than ever. So thank you for your work, and thank you for the time you're spent with us.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
I don't know anybody from Oklahoma has much to say about salmon, other than I like it. Let me ask you, if you had to, you laid out, is it Asia?
Asia, yes.
Kind of your needs budget by budget. If you had to pick 2 or 3 of the most important things that would make material difference here, and I would ask you the same question, Jason, what would they be?
That's a really tough question just because our priorities are so expansive in terms of, and they're very different from each other. We have a lot of enforcement needs. We have these treaty fishing access sites that we have. It's federally owned, but we do all the O&M on them. And the issue, to kind of think about the previous panel, is we have those sites were created for seasonal use to access the river. But because of the lack of housing in the Columbia River Gorge and the lack of affordable housing, we have tribal citizens living on these sites year-round without the infrastructure to really support them. So I think although the housing is not in my court, it's within individual tribes. Until we get that figured out, the use of these sites and the maintenance of these sites will continue to increase as the enrollment and the citizens kind of take in the area. But for us, really the biggest is the Columbia River Fisheries Management. That just doesn't go specifically just to CRITFIC. That goes to our member tribes, and that really supports all of the work at the baseline of what we do in terms of advocacy, but also policy and science.
Jason, I know the Great Lakes are very different from the Northwest, but for the things you work on, what would be the most important thing?
Well, the most important thing, obviously, is to maintain our funding. So RPI is our bloodline, I would say. And then I would also just also equally prioritize just more buying power for our specific organization, so that our staff, so that we can increase. Our pay scale hasn't been updated in years, and so our staff have been. The one fortunate thing for Glyphwick is that we have our staff are long tenured, so we have many people that have been there for a long time, and so their dedication and expertise needs to be rewarded. But at the same time, we lose, the opportunity to compete with state agencies and our counterparts, because we'll train them, we train our people in, but then they end up leaving for agencies like yourselves or even state agencies as well. So. And so we need to be able to be competitive so that we can maintain, the excellence that we provide, the services that we provide to our tribes, and we know that states and people that recreate in those areas where we live, they benefit from that as well.
Thank you. Yield back, Mr. Chair.
Ms. McComb.
Thank you. So Glyphwick's really key in the Great Lakes area.
Essential.
Because you're charged with the Intertribal Commission. You use your funding to ensure that the fulfillment of court orders. Mm-hmm. So you have a real important role in making sure that federal orders are fulfilled. I appreciate what you said about what happens to staff, whether they're scientists, warrants, or just community outreach people on how to do what we need to do to protect this environmental resource. I'd like you to just take a few minutes and maybe tell the committee, especially in light of what's happened in EPA Region 5, which is the region you pretty much sit in, what has happened with the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, and other federal agencies because of the cuts that they've had throughout your ceded territories, and either what you're, and you can provide us written testimony later, but either what you're not able to do or things that you could do better if those support staffs were there. When you lose a lot of people in EPA Region 5, that affects you because it's everything that touches the EPA also touches the work that you do for tribal organizations.
Yeah, so obviously I would just say, plainly with the lack of staff, it's we don't have people there that are responsive to any issues that arise for our tribe. So that's the biggest thing is this. It's the the delay as far as communication and correspondence, and so I would say that's the most prominent thing as far as when we lose staff or in any organization or when their staffing levels are reduced, the services are delayed or even responses or correspondence is delayed as well.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Chair, I think in light of the fact that one of their priority roles is to see the fulfillment of court orders, and I know from talking to tribal members and from things the White House said when it was first came into office that tribal nations were not going to get caught up in their attacks on DEI. I have some concerns from some individuals that I've heard both at a federal level, state levels, and other than Minnesota, and at tribal levels that original statement from the White House might not be happening the way in which we all had hoped it would work out, because with the cutting of that, it impacts them very different from the roles that they have. So any conversations we can also have with the White House to make sure that the things that the president originally said about honoring trust and treaty responsibilities, and that also includes what Glyphwick does. And I hope that possibly is reflected in the president's budget. With that, I yield back.
Ms. Elsey? Charter. Thank you for your testimony and for being here. And I know it was a challenge to get here. We didn't know we were going to make it flying in, but I appreciate it very much. It's very important, and we'll continue working on these issues.
And I have to drive back, too, so that's the other part.
I'd get a hotel room until it gets to about 70 degrees. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ashton Picard, Donna Thompson, and Chief Allen.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Nobody needs it more.
What's that?
I said nobody needs it more.
Yeah, that's right.
It's good to see you. You too.
You think you guys never see each other. You're both from Idaho. Only 500 miles apart.
We don't.
Ashton, you're first.